drinks! Watch your back!
Don't try and take him on with brute force. They're stronger. Be smarter.
Welcome to Kermode Uncut. I'm joined by Jack Howard. I did Jack and Dean's radio show on Radio 1 a few months ago, and we kind of started talking about films because we met outside the Star Wars premiere.
Yes, we did, yeah.
We found we had a lot in common, and I've asked you to come on because I wanted to talk to you about Warcraft, which opened in UK cinemas yesterday. And I have very mixed feelings about the film, and I just kind of wanted to share some of them with you and see what you thought. My feeling was I went into it being a huge fan of Duncan Jones, not being a fan of Warcraft the game. I mean, I'm 52, so I'm kind of way out.
I'm the exact same, and I'm 24, so it's fine.
So you weren't a Warcraft player in the first place?
No, I've never played the game. I've never really felt... I really struggled when I was younger with fantasy in general. I never really connected with it. I sort of never really got into Lord of the Rings or anything like that, and it's only in recent years that I've even got into sci-fi as well. I always found things that were disconnected from this world to be sort of hard to engage with.
You must have been a really weird kid, because that's the ideal period for that stuff.
Yeah, I was very much into like James Bond and things like that, and more...
Oh, because James Bond is like really down to earth.
Yeah, I mean characters of this earth, rather than like space and lasers and fantasy creatures and things like that.
So you didn't play things like Assassin's Creed, which is also coming as a movie very soon, and which, I mean, I've never, because I don't play, but I've watched people play Assassin's. I've actually really enjoyed watching Assassin's Creed. Okay, so Warcraft. I went in knowing only the sort of, the basic parameters of it. I'm a huge fan of Duncan Jones. I loved Moon. I loved Source Code. And my worry was going to be that this great big game franchise was going to overwhelm him. And how much was he able to put his thumbprint on it? And actually, there were things in it that I found were very touching. I like the idea that it's so much to do with fathers and sons and mothers and children. I like the fact that it's very gender balanced. At the very beginning, we get a pregnant woman going through this, weird Stargate thing, and the women are warrior characters as much as the men are.
Yeah, that's something that's good. I think that they didn't leave anybody behind. Nice to see the father and son thing there. I feel like it doesn't quite... It's not what the film is about. It's sort of, the film is a big special effects fantasy movie, and then that's sort of there. And not to spoil anything, but there's a lot of deaths in this film. Like there's like almost Game of Thrones level of a season in one film amount of deaths. And when they happened, I don't think I ever really cared about really any of them when they happened, and there was a few characters that I quite liked, but when they died, I was sort of like, okay, I guess they're expendable. It's sort of the way the film treats its characters I didn't particularly get along with.
Okay, so speaking as a Duncan Jones fan, it sounds to me like you found Warcraft disappointing.
I didn't particularly like it at all. I walked out and with Duncan Jones, and it's easy for me to say and comment on a film when I've seen it about the things that he may have done wrong, but you've also got to remember that the studio would have been involved, you've got to please the fans, and then also he wants to make a good film. But I feel like he went from Moon to Source Code to Warcraft, like those jumps they're such big leaps. I almost wish he'd taken his time a bit more at mastering the craft of directing before jumping into something so huge.
One of the things that occurred to me about it was, as I was watching it, the things that I liked, I kept thinking, but these aren't the things that are going to sell the film. And I have to say, I think the film is going to have a hard time out there in the marketplace. And I kept thinking that all the things that I liked, I think the film is very flawed, but all the things that I liked, I kept thinking, I don't know, I have no idea whether they will have any traction with fans of Warcraft. Now, I know you don't play Warcraft, but you're at least closer in age, and you do the YouTube stuff. You understand what the young people... Do you think it's going to have a hard time with that audience?
I think that anything to do with existing property, which is pretty much most of Hollywood lately, will do okay. But I don't know. I feel like the fans might either love it or hate it. Like, I feel like there's going to be a massive split. I think some people will just appreciate for what they've got as a film, and some people will be like, well, they got this wrong, and they got this wrong, and they got this wrong. I can't comment on that because I don't know anything about it other than like orcs are in it, and I'm like, cool, there's orcs and magic, that's fine.
But did you not like the fact that it's kind of evenly sympathetic? I mean, it has these sort of various warring armies, and it's not like, well, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. That in every single case, it does like to tell the story from different angles. I thought that was actually quite interesting. It's not just, you know,
bad guy,
big fighty, Mad Maxy, toothy things versus everything else.
Yeah, but I really, really liked the villains, actually. I actually liked the orcs more than I liked the humans. Is that something that you found as well?
Yeah, I mean, I did, and I kind of found that was one of the things I liked about the film, was that it did play with your sympathies, and all the way through it. I mean, it's very referential. There are parts in it when you think, okay, well, that is a Lord of the Rings scenery, that's a Lord of the Rings mountain ravine, that's the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Even the musician is the guy who does the music for Game of Thrones.
And there were moments in it when you go, okay, well, that's Count Dooku with the glowing eyes, and that's the light. There are things that.
But I think that's Duncan Jones. I think that's Duncan Jones being a massive fan of like this sort of genre and getting to just play with everything.
But isn't that a good thing? Isn't it good to see the film made by somebody who looks like they actually care? Whether you think it works or not, isn't that a positive thing?
Yeah, I do think it is a positive thing, because what I did immediately was I think there's a trend in Hollywood at the moment where, and this is not always a bad thing, but where movies aren't following any story formula at all. So like, no story beats are, like Batman vs Superman and Warcraft, I think, are similar in the way that they're told. Like, I think
Batman vs Superman is incoherent.
But,
it's incoherent.
Yeah. But like, the story beats in Batman vs Superman don't make sense, and the story beats in Warcraft, I feel, don't make sense either. Like, none of the sort of like traditional. And I'm not saying that that's the way that all movies should be, but I feel like it just completely throws that out the window. And I sort of admire it for that, but also it's just a bit weird. But my point of comparing it to Batman vs Superman is I can tell this one was made by someone who wanted to make this.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Batman vs Superman was made just because it had to be made.
But you see, that in a way is kind of the thing that I find interesting, and I have to say I'm very conflicted about this. I find it very hard to kind of come to a conclusion about. So
you don't know
about the film.
You just have mixed feelings.
I came out of it thinking there were things about it that I really liked. There were things about it that I felt disconnected from because I wasn't totally involved in the world. But what I did think was that there were personal thumbprints on it, and I felt that I was watching Duncan Jones wrestling with a franchise that he loves, but attempting to make a personal movie. And I found that there were enough of those personal things in it to keep me interested. I wasn't bored, and I thought, in terms of its running time, it's a couple of hours long. I mean, when was the last time you saw one of these movies that's, less than 2 hours long?
Yeah.
Plus, I thought that there was all the way through a sense that it was being made by somebody who actually was passionate about it. And I think the big difference between that and when you say Batman versus Superman is, although I think Zack Snyder is a real sort of comic books fan, I just find his filmmaking incredibly...
Without love. There's no love.
Yeah, no, without love, exactly so. And you can't say that about Warcraft.
No, I think that's correct. And I always go back to someone like Spielberg. Jurassic Park isn't a movie about dinosaurs, it's a movie about humans with dinosaurs in it. And I think that that's what he was trying to do here, was tell a very human story with all this fantasy element stuff in it. But I don't think he's quite good enough yet to make the balance right. Or maybe he is good enough, and like I say, there's a lot of elements like studio and things like that could have influenced the way it actually turned out. But I've got to say, I've not lost faith in Duncan Jones. I think he's still a very talented guy.
Okay, so therefore, what's your instinct about Warcraft?
I don't like it, but I can tell it was made by somebody who cared.
But do you think it'll play?
Do I think it will do well?
No, I mean, do you think other people will like it?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think they will. I think most people... I think that people will probably come out going like, yeah, it was alright, special effects were pretty good.
I'm really interested to see how it does. I kind of want it to do well. I kind of suspect that it won't. But I also...
You want it to do well? Because like, when I saw it, the first instinct that I had was that... Well, the first thought I had was, this is the sort of movie I wish Hollywood wasn't making.
Okay.
I wish Duncan Jones put his time into something else.
What I really want him to do now is I want him to go and make a Mike Leigh drama.
Yeah.
I want him to make a really a two-hander, like Moon 2. Yeah, that will all pay to see. Okay, well, thanks for coming on the blog.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
See you again. And Moon 2 coming soon.
We hope.